Well, Miss Aubrey, welcome to the podcast. Full circle moment for you.
Hello, hello. I'm so
So
excited to be here.
I know. Well, tell me, because you just made me giggle when you were telling in the pre-interview that this is a full circle moment for you. That you've been listening to the podcast for how long?
Since like 2018.
Wow. So we
Full
like
circle.
almost one of the OGs.
For real, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And here you are on the
Here
podcast.
I am finally, a year after meeting you in person for the
Yep.
first
hmm
time.
Yep.
And I'm gonna see you again in a couple weeks when we go to LashCon.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna go this year. I'm not gonna be there this year. Yeah, we've got our mastermind retreat right after that. But
Okay,
you
that's
have fun.
fine.
You have fun. I
I
know.
will.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody where your business is and how many team members you have.
Yes, so currently we actually just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, our
Yeah,
fourth
girl.
birthday on Sunday, so 2 days ago. And we currently have 2 team members with me. So I'm still taking clients. I only do clients about 3 days a week, so
Yeah.
very part-time lashing. And then I have 2 other part-time employees now.
I love it. I love it. So how does that feel getting to a 4-year anniversary mark?
It's
Okay.
crazy, like, especially thinking about where I was 4 years ago, like, thinking back on it, like, where I was in my business, where I was in life 4 years ago,
Mhm.
and then looking at, like, okay, now where we are in life here now, thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in a completely different physical space." Like,
Yeah.
my salon is now 1,700 square foot bigger than what it was
Wow.
when 4 years ago, and now I have these 2 awesome team members that I've been working on. One of them has been with me for a little bit longer, and how she's grown, how I've just learned so many new things.
Yeah, that's amazing. Talk to me about even just the past year. Because when did you start the hiring journey? Because you've been hiring for a while.
Yes, so I had a team member that I hired January 22, I'll
Okay.
say. She was with me for 9 months, and it didn't work out, so I ended up letting her go, and then I went through the holiday season, and then again during, because I always like to hire during slow seasons, so January of 2023 was when I hired my current girl that I have now,
Yeah.
and then I just hired another girl about a month ago
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So not new to the hiring game, at least you've been doing this for a
No,
while, but
yeah,
learning a
I've
lot.
had yeah, so this would be my 3rd employee, but I currently have 2.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to people that are considering hiring, like as you've now had 3 team members, like the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, like what's realistic for hiring a team? Because I think people go
Abs
into it having this
Yeah.
fantasy of like, oh, they get to come in and we're just going to sail off into the sunset. And it very rarely is that.
Yeah, so, I've hired at multiple different, like, different types of lash artists. I've hired somebody who had been, like, messing with it a little bit, I've hired somebody who was experienced, and I've hired somebody who has never touched a tweezer in her life, and I feel like even though they all had different experience levels, I still felt like we almost started from the ground up every time
Yeah.
because I wanted to teach them my way of doing things so that I can get something that was important to me was making sure that there was consistency across the
Yeah.
board. And
Yeah.
so teaching get rid of bad habits, teaching new things that, someone who is experienced may think that, like, just, the way other people can teach things might contradict the way that I think lashes should be done.
Right.
Everybody's kind of different in the way that they teach. So even though I taught different experience levels, everything was always still kind of from the ground up. So making sure that I had that set training program
Yeah. The onboarding
really
process.
changed the game when it came to hiring, and I think that's the reason why I now have these 2 girls that are, like, set up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. And that creates, like you said, the consistency of the results and the experience for the clients. Because I know a lot of people get really concerned about, like, well, nobody's ever going to do it my way. My clients will not go to other people. Have you transitioned any of your clients off of your books onto your team members' books?
Yes, absolutely, I made a point I was worried about that specifically, I made a point to work on that, and how I kind of did that was making sure that my clients who had been with me for now 4 years were having as many, like, points of contact with my new
Yeah.
girls, so making sure that, like, okay, if my new girl wasn't busy, you're gonna check them in, check them out, so that they got
Smart.
comfortable and felt like they got to know you, so that whenever something happened to me, like if I was sick, my client would be like, "Oh, well, I know her. I can go to her this one time. It's totally fine."
Yeah.
Or if I'm on vacation, like, "Oh, yeah, I can go to her for a couple of fills. That's no problem. I know her."
Yeah. The
And
familiarity.
once they know her, they feel more comfortable to get their lashes done by her. And when they see, like, "Oh, I get the exact same results," then
Yeah.
it's no problem for them to bounce back and forth between us.
And then it's also like the opposite too, is that when you start to transition them over the team member, that they get a lot of contact points with you, so that it's almost that transition. It's not that you're necessarily doing the service, but you're still there, you're still saying hi, maybe you check them in, check them out. And so it can transition the client fairly seamlessly when there's familiarity with both you and the team members. Yeah. Yeah, that's the interesting point, that when you want to stop trading your time for money, you actually have to decide when it's time to stop trading time for money, because it can be very addictive of like, I'm going to keep my clients and the validation we get and the friendship and the camaraderie. But at some point, you have to pull back your schedule so that you can work on the business. What has that been like for you? Because I know you've pulled back quite a bit in actually doing the
Mhm.
lashing services. So have you had any resistance to that, or has it felt fairly rewarding right off the back when you started to pull back?
It absolutely feels rewarding. So I was originally 5 days a week doing clients. When I hired my girl that I have now, who's been with me the longest, I took back 1 day. And it was really kind of tricky whenever I first hired her to balance taking clients so that I had money coming in to pay for her, and then training her and being with her when she needed help. So this time around with my newest employee, I made a point to like really step back and make time so that I was there 100% to train her. And that had a little bit of pushback a little bit. I know some clients were like, "Well, you don't have availability. What's going on?" But I was like, "You're safe with her, you can go with her." And now that my newest employee is most comfortable, like, she's gone into the training process, she's gone through the program enough that now I've taken another full day off. So,
Sweet.
currently, like I said, I just do clients 3 days a week. One of those is actually a half day,
Yep.
so 2.5 days of taking clients. And I have 2 days of the week where I can fully work on the business, like all of the back end stuff, even working on new things for the salon.
Yeah.
And I still have my weekends. I still have my weekends. I don't have to work on my weekends
What a
anymore.
concept.
It is amazing to be able to have sometimes 3 days a week on the weekends to, like, just relax, reset, get my brain together. I have 2 days of the week in my book where I can actually work on the business,
Yep.
get things done, level up, make new systems for my salon, and then 3 days a week where I still kind of have my hands on working with clients, still have my relationships, because I do love lashing,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
but
the hardest part, is like you loved
yeah,
lashing and it's like, well, at some point we never say like you have to be fully out of the treatment room if you don't want to. Like our philosophy is lash because you can and because you want to, not because you have to. And that's a game changer when you get to that point. You're like, I'll take my 5 like OG clients I love the most, but like rest of the time
mhm.
is pouring into the team for them to thrive.
My kind of mindset that I'm having right now is every new employee I get, I wanna take 1 more day off.
Yeah, I love it.
That's kind of
Well,
how I
I was just thinking, I was like, if you join the mastermind, we probably have you out of the treatment room by the end of the holidays. Like that you're that close to it, especially because your newest
absolutely.
team member will be out of onboarding, what, in like another month and a half, month or so?
Yeah, a month and a half.
Yeah. And they're both part-time? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're getting into the holidays too. So yeah, I say push it during the holidays with the 3 of you, and then you could probably pull back if they'll increase their availability. Anyways, that's a side conversation for another day, strategy wise. So let's talk about why did you decide? So you and I met at LashCon last year.
Mhm.
And I think we had many conversations between that point in time, which was October, and when you joined the program, which I think was in May. So what was kind of some of the resistance or the unknown about joining the program when it was first kind of came up last October?
Absolutely. So, because I remember when we were at LashCon, I was telling you my struggles, and you were
Mhm.
like, "Girl, you need an
I got
acceptance.
you.
This is for you. This will help you every step of the way." And I was kind of thinking like, "Okay, I've already spent all this money for LashCon. I'm gonna see what I can gain from that."
Yep.
Because they do have, like, hiring type classes. And
Yep.
I learned something from there too. But even then, the implementation process that I was able to achieve, just like DIYing it on my
Yeah.
own almost, I was like, I know I'm getting somewhere, but I know I'm not there yet. I know
Right.
like this, I know I have the ideas, I know the processes, but I don't have this like full in-depth system that
Yep.
is rinse and repeat replicatable. And I knew like I was like, okay, I'm at this point where I do want to step back more in the treatment room. I want to like really just level up my employees and get them to a place where I'm fully confident in them and their training. Because I know I can train people, but I was like, there's just not like a system in
Yeah.
place that I feel confident in 100%. And so I was looking into the Society Accelerator, and when I was reading everything, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to jump in. Like, I
Yeah.
think I'm ready because I knew how much ROI employees can give you.
Yeah.
And I knew like, okay, I'm gonna invest and I know I'm gonna get a return with employees. So if I can get employees done right, correctly, like then it's all gonna be worth it.
Yeah. Love that. Love that 100%. And there's so much to speak to there. So like the process is first and foremost. And yeah, I think there is some truth to that. Like there's a lot of stuff you can DIY. You can even go through your own experience. And what I love about our program specifically is that coaching component that you can get your questions asked in the week, in the day, right? It's like you don't have
Yes.
to wait 6 months to try and figure it out on your own or try and like Google it or YouTube it. Like it just takes some of that time out of it for you to implement. And we break it down pretty bite sized. Like we give you homework and we give you, okay, this is what you need by next week. And so it kind of helps you focus on what I say is like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it's like, do this step, go implement this. Okay, you're having issues with this team member. Let's go implement this process or policy or whatever, and let us know how it goes. And so there's something to be said about having resources by way of people who are doing this, people who have done this, a step-by-step process, and sometimes having somebody that can help you see the bigger picture because oftentimes the emotion of it, it can feel really heavy. It can feel really scary. It's, personal life stuff kind of starts to like distract you. And it's like, let's keep the personal stuff separate. Go have your emotional release, but then focus on business and doing the next right step. And that's what's cool about this program is we have all of those steps laid out. It is a very start to finish process, step-by-step process to getting your team member fully onboarded. Has that been your experience?
Yes, I absolutely loved it. And like you said, like I could absolutely just learn from experience, but
Yeah.
I think it would have taken me years
Yeah.
to get to what I am at now, only 4 months later.
Yeah.
The knowing your numbers, I feel like was so helpful to me. Like all of those spreadsheets and seeing the numbers laid out, being like, I know that I can afford this. I know that I
Yeah.
could do this. I know how my team should be getting paid. I
Yeah.
know how to track them so that they can get raises and that we could do extra fun things so that my business is kind of set apart from like the standard franchises and stuff because I know, okay, I know I have this profit now from my employees that I can track. And now that I have this profit available, we can do extra stuff to reward my team.
Yeah. Or pay yourself. Right?
Exactly.
And
Like those are
that's
things that would have taken me years to
yeah,
learn on my own from trial and error that now
love
I
it.
know 4 months in.
Yeah. That's what's fun for me, like, when we start getting newer members in and they're like, "Okay, here's what I wanna pay myself." A lot of our members will come in, they haven't been paying themselves if they have a team, and I'm like, "Okay, let's start. Let's get you milestones and goals along the way," and they actually start to reach those much faster than they think they will. Like, some people just wanna pay themselves $1,000 a month, and look, there's way more money to be made, but it's like when we can get them paying themselves that, then it's like, "Okay, how do we get to 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000?" Right? So, yeah, awesome, I love that. Well, let me ask you this as we kinda start to wrap up the episode. If you could, I want to go back to the Aubrey of 2022, who was just starting to hire and the mindset that she was in. What advice would you give her now that you've had all this experience, now that you have processes, now that you have two team members? What encouragement would you offer her that would have helped her lean more into and trust that everything was going to work out in her favor?
Oh my goodness.
It's a good one.
I really think something that I've heard before is that like when you see other people who are where you want to be, listen to them
Mm,
because they have gone through the trial and error and they can help you get there easier, more seamlessly. And I think you were that person for me, Tara.
thank you.
So, really listening to you and listening to the trials and errors that you have helped me so much. Um, I think listening to my gut a lot. Like I knew in my gut there were big leaps that I needed to take, and I
Yeah,
was scared to take them. And it's not as risky as I always thought it was.
that's
Like
true.
hiring employees seemed like this huge risk, like it was gonna make or break my business.
Mhm.
And it isn't. Like I could make mistakes and it's gonna be fine. This
Right.
business is still gonna be able to handle it. It's gonna be okay. So taking leaps, taking jumps. That's what I would tell my 2022 self. You need to take leaps, you need to take jumps because it works. It can be really worth it in the end. And holy crap, did I not think that I would be this far 2 years later?
I love it.
Every time I think back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought. I
Yeah.
always had the goal, I had the dream, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm living it.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it and it can happen. And it's crazy to realize that, like, okay, because I always thought of the future. I always think, like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? When you think about where you are and being present, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it.
Yeah. That
I took
reflection
the
is,
jumps.
yeah, you did. So let me ask you this now. What's the next jump? What's the next vision? What's the next dream that's like mind blowing?
I want a bigger team.
Yeah.
Want to keep growing my team. I want to keep growing the salon, have a bigger team, bigger team. I love the team culture. I love
Yeah.
building a culture. I hate to say family. I think that's so cliche. A big Lash family.
Yeah.
And with that time, stepping back fully from the treatment room, really being on the business end of things to support my team even more and focusing on growing. One of my dreams is education.
Yep.
So having a team that supports me, having a business that supports me so that I can work on this next dream of education.
I love that. Well, let's do that, girl. Let's make that happen, but in
Oh,
far
it's
less
gonna
time.
happen.
Oh, it's going to happen. I love
It's
that. Well, if you guys are interested in learning more about how to build a team so that you can stop trading your time for money, we've got our solo stress to team success classes happening, I believe, this week. So head on over to lashpreneur.com/solo stress and get registered. And then you can always DM me with any questions you have at the Lashpreneur on Instagram. Aubrey, thank you so much. I know we're just getting started, girl. We're just getting started, but I'm so proud of you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank
We'll talk soon.
you.
Have a good one.